I'm Chris Braithwaite. I'm at Channel 4 in the UK. So we are a publicly service broadcast channel. Hopefully some of you have seen some of our content even here. So I'm here to flag the traditional media, to wave the traditional media flag. So they've got over the Brits to do that, I think. You know, boo traditional media, boo Brexit. Yeah. Anyway, no, but I'm here to just really talk. I don't know much about influencer marketing. I know a little, but I'm really here to talk about traditional TV.
Excellent, Chris. And Robin.
Yeah, hey, my name is Robin. I am what you would call an influencer. Scary word. Yeah, I also have a production company where I produce influencer marketing content for brands. And yeah, it's been my life for the past decade to make content on the internet with people that are not traditional media people. And it's an interesting journey.
Well, I'm impressed you sat next to the traditionalist. That's fantastic. Hopefully we can get punches thrown by the end of this. Hillevi.
Thanks. So yeah, my name is Hillevi. I work for Jimdo. It's the easiest DIY website builder on the market. And we're actually doing traditional TV, but also influencer marketing. So I'm in between the two of them.
In between the two. Oh. Metaphorically. And Ben.
Hello everyone, I'm Ben from Leetchi.com. I'm the general manager of Leetchi. It's a company inside the fintech area, and we provide a service to collect money online from a group of persons. We already got 10 million customers worldwide, mostly in Europe. So clearly we made lots of different campaigns to scale, TV of course, but also influencer marketing, and I will sharing with you the most relevant outcome I got.
Excellent. So it sounds like you might need to scoot over just a little bit and kind of let the... No. No, I want to set the stage because there's nothing like a good buzzword to get the mouth watering and the mind swimming. So in as few words as possible, could you give us a working definition of influencer marketing, how you think of that term? Just so we're all playing from the same deck of cards.
Right, I'm out of my comfort zone. I'm going to give this a go. So I would say it's an implicit recommendation of a brand or service to a consumer that they listen to.
Yeah, I'd say it's people or even companies that have built up their own reach and their own community and the ability to use that to get people to notice a product.
I actually don't know what to add to that because that's like the mixture what I would have said. So yeah.
Maybe I will add a point. Of course, it's closely related to recommendation, to social media. But when you think about influencer marketing, there are a wide range of strategy, wide range of different players inside the space. You, of course, think about big celebrities, but you got also a wide range of smaller players. And I also include in the influence marketing definition the way you are handling your customer review, because it's also a way to influence a buying process or an e-commerce area inside these big topics about influence marketing.
Excellent. Now, we're going to open this up for the last 10 minutes or so for questions. If you do have any, we're going to have some roving mics walking around, so please do jot down as soon as something comes to mind, and we'll spare some time at the end to address that. With something like a buzzword, influencer marketing, there is plenty of data. A 2016 study by Nielsen showed that influencer marketing creates an 11 times ROI when compared to traditional forms of digital advertising. Is influencer marketing intrinsically more powerful than traditional advertising, or is it just a matter of newness, and do you expect that to taper off? And anybody can jump in.
I actually think that this is more a question of the target group itself. So I really think that influencer marketing has its own deep power depending on what product you're actually going to advertise for. So just easy one, obviously an influencer Instagram that is connected to makeup, for example. I really believe that this is something that can really work stronger. Because if you got somebody like a beautiful woman who's recommending like using that kind of makeup, it just has another strength than traditional media, where you're just part of like an advertising blog and you're just like one of many. So I definitely believe that there is a big chance for companies like that, whereas companies like ours, where we have like this really super diverse target group that is not that young, definitely have like another different challenge in influencer marketing, and that's why traditional media is still one of the most important parts for us.
I don't think it's a phase. I think it's going to be a part of marketing going forward always. But I don't think traditional media is that either. I think it's it works together, and I think what makes influencer marketing work the way it does and have that ROI is that you are making people enjoy the advertising if you're doing it right. If you're doing influencer marketing, you're getting the advertisement in the content that people choose to watch instead of a banner ad that I have to click, something that kind of forces me to watch an ad. And in this case, if you're doing influencer marketing, you're getting your content and your brand and your product into something that people actually like watching, and that makes a totally different connection to the people, and I think that's what makes it so interesting.
All I would say is we certainly, in the traditional world, wouldn't be so complacent to say it's a fad. We think we can get for a certain amount of brands, it's perfect and does a really good job. We think maybe if there isn't a complacency, it's a feeling that it's kind of small, and so for a small amount of brands that can really work in that way. I guess it feels a bit like product placement to us a few years ago when it was legalized in the UK. We thought, if you'll remember, well, certainly in the UK, we thought it was the cavalry over the hill with £150 million a year, and we're probably taking 7 million this year. So, what that has learned is product placement is a part of a bigger mix, not just on its own. I think probably this falls into that category as well.
And that raises a really good question, because you used the phrase product placement. And one of the things I'm really curious about is the differences you see between a traditional endorsement, a product placement, and influencer marketing.
You're right, Aaron. I mean, many brands have used endorsement for a really, really long time, and they still make this kind of strategy. For example, got one in mind. It's Roger Federer, who's working with Rolex. It's typically classical product endorsement. They show a TV ad with Roger wearing a Rolex, so it's pretty classics. But what brings influencer marketing today, it's way more wider in terms of usage and strategy. Of course, it's closely linked to social media. So when you think about running an influencer marketing, you have to have this strategic reflection before to choose the right influencer. And also, you have the possibility to mix both this influencer marketing campaign with also media buying. And you could mix both to leverage a bit more and get more virality around this topic.
I was just going to follow up from what I was saying. I think there's, at the moment, quite a lot of influencer marketing meeting traditional TV right now. So we've got a couple of projects come to mind. We've got a big ad-funded piece of content with Suzuki on E4, which is a youth channel around celebrity driving school. Now those are influencers as such, but they're in a TV program, and Suzuki are obviously in the Suzuki car, but they're surrounding the brand and the program brand with their brand. I think that works really well, and we've got a big show tomorrow night called Gogglebox, which is our biggest show, which is showing people watching TV, but it works. But one of the voice activation companies is actually in the ad break, using the families, using the device to interact with TV. So to me, that's where influencers are actually coming into the TV world, and traditional meets new. So that's an interesting change.
Blending of the two, or at least the overlapping, interlocking. So in the spirit of Sarah's very data-driven presentation, I took the rigorously scientific step of launching a Twitter poll a few days ago. And we had a lot of people weigh in on it, and it was basically, what's the greatest challenge facing influencer marketing? And by a landslide, the answer that came back was attribution. So I'd love to have you speak to, particularly, is there anything that old school, and I hate to use that phrase, old school television, which also struggles with attribution, particularly with sales, is there anything that can teach us about influencer marketing? And what are the KPIs, the metrics that really should rule an influencer marketing campaign? So the lessons and the metrics.
Well, it's bloody hard, is one of the problems. You know, continually we have this challenge with advertisers to explain real-time response. So we have that continual challenge between a branding spot, a peak spot, if you like, against more direct response advertising. The fact that someone could be watching a movie at 9 o'clock on a Thursday night on Channel 4, but they actually go to their desk on Friday afternoon when they're not doing much and buying the product, it's very hard to attribute to that spot. And we've all have this challenge. But we work very closely with advertisers to, with companies like TV Squared to try and sort of, make sure advertising works as hard as possible. My tip to influencer marketers is it's very important, but it's not the everything. And you can't underestimate the long tail of advertising. That would be my advice.
I think it's very hard to attribute, but it's easier when you're online, obviously, because when you have cookies, you have links that you set under the post or whatever, so you can actually track if somebody clicked that link right now. When you have a call to action from your influencer saying, there's a link in the description or whatever, click that now, and then you can actually track that and see if it's working. And we've done campaigns where a company has compared us to traditional banner advertisement. They've seen, all right, okay, if we put a banner for the same amount of money, we're getting a lot less direct at that moment interactions, but then we can use the banners to maybe retarget the people later on and then see that stuff. And so I think it all works hand in hand. I think you can't really say, okay, I spend $100,000 in influencer marketing and I spend $100,000 in TV advertising, because you're going to be on several platforms as a user, ideally, and you're going to see the advertisement everywhere, ideally, and then maybe that, in conclusion, taking everything together is going to make you make your decision. And I think when it comes to KPIs, what you should be tracking in social media is the way people interact with your brand. It's if they actually end up liking your own site, if they actually start interacting with the content that you put out yourself, if you have a link that you're sending, if you have a hashtag, whatever, track that, because that is, it's in influencer marketing, in my opinion, it's obviously about sales, because it's always about sales, but it's also about getting your brand to be a content creator itself. And that is something that you can actually track, because you can see whether your brand is actually becoming itself an influencer in that land space. I think that should always be a goal.
Hillevi, you mentioned before, you brought in products, you mentioned makeup, Instagram, and first of all, I have no idea what you're talking about as far as pretty women on Instagram. I can't see them performing well at all. But besides being ignorant of that, with something like Instagram, I mean, Instagram is one of the few platforms that brands and products perform well on. And there's almost this sort of irony of, and it's the one that's hardest to track. All right, so any tips or how to set up that attribution in something like Instagram where you can't just click through, although now you can swipe as that's starting to be unveiled. What have you seen successful in that realm?
That's really a good question, because attribution for us, obviously, as an online company, is super important. And the thing is, for us, with influencer marketing currently, at least in Germany, or we have not tried it in such a big scale like TV. So with TV, we always see a top-line effect. So attribution in that point is easy because we do advertising and then we see the effect. Influencer marketing is obviously different, especially in Germany when you do it or trying it out with smaller ones. So one trick that we are using are just discounts. So somebody's posting about creating a website with Jimdo and how easy it is, maybe making a story or something. We always ask them to use a discount in the advertisement so that we can actually track that discount, and that helps.
Just a specific code?
Yes, a really specific code that's just connected to that influencer.
I was hoping you'd say that, because I love the sort of full circleness of this. It's all you know, cutting edge, bleeding edge, and give them a coupon code, like they're cutting it out of
a... Unfortunately, it still works. Yeah, you know, old school. Old school, new school, combined, perfect.
Yeah. Don't be original, isn't that what Sarah said too? Excellent. Yeah. See, it's all coming together.
Yeah.
Now, for major brands, there's a lot of talk, and especially the overlap between television, digital advertising, and social media marketing that surrounds celebrities. But I'm curious, Ben, about your work in particular. You mentioned to me micro-influencers, and you already brought that up as well. How do you define a micro-influencer, and what's the role they play? Who they're a good fit for?
Yeah, as I said previously, you've got the kind of pyramid with on top the celebrities. Of course, it's pretty expensive, and few brands could afford them. And then you could be in touch with a middle tier and small, also smaller influencer. And at Leetchi, we have chosen to work with this kind of people. So it's typically YouTubers or guys in Instagram, Twitter. We got around maybe 10K or 15K followers in average, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. Also bloggers. And what is interesting is that you can target a wide range of different profile, both geographic, by usage also. It's very important for us. And also what is interesting is that you could able maybe to scale your marketing campaign and your influencer campaign with new tools, with networks that are gonna connect you with all kind of really small influencers. It's the case, of course, in FMCG, which is working very well. So you can leverage a pretty wide range of small influencer with a very great price, and you could have a massive reach on different countries. So, I mean, one of the problem of influencer marketing is the scalability between different countries, area, and with this kind of techniques, you could maybe scale a bit faster. And what's also it's interesting with small influencers is that you could also leverage when it's someone with blogging and also on social media. You could leverage your SEO, which is also another way to use influencer marketing beside recommendation, is also to get great net linking for your SEO, and it's always great to have it.
Now I want to get to some of the questions out in the audience. So we have our roving mics about ready to roll. While those are getting pulled up, the other really big challenge, and you mentioned scaling already, the other really big challenge people identified was picking the right influencers or finding influencers. And I think that's actually symptomatic of a bigger challenge or a bigger question, which is, where do I start and how do I pursue the right path? Because there's all these, do I start with the product, start with my audience? Do I start with the influencers who have control over my audience? Do I start with the channels that give me the largest reach? What's the right starting point to set yourself on a path for success in influencer marketing?
I'd say it's identifying what your niche is, because I think most of the time, and I've seen this a lot in Germany. I think internationally you probably have the same problem. You have a company, they read somewhere influencer marketing.
I'm sure that's never happened. Excellent, keep going.
That's the best thing now, you got to do it. And then they go and say, okay, how much money do we have? All right, $100,000. What's the biggest guy we can get for 100K? And then they buy that and have no idea if that is a brand fit, if that person has worked with brands that are actually, you know, your competitor in the past, what is currently going on with that person online. Maybe he has beef with somebody else. Maybe there's drama. You know, this is a very young, you know, target age group. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So that's a big problem. So instead, I'd say, all right, who is maybe the, like if I have a, you know, a website building, maybe there's somebody who does, you know, IT content on YouTube already. Maybe there's creative channels that are already doing stuff with websites. Maybe you can work with them, and they may be a bit smaller, but we can try, because in that case, we can see if it's working with somebody that is very specific in that area that, you know, maybe we're not going to scale very big, but we're going to get, you know, a very specific response to our product and to this case that we're trying, and then we can scale from there.
And I think another point is super important in that area is just testing. Because, I mean, like what you just said is really true. So we've tested several things, really big influencers, really small ones. And the small ones were definitely directed to a certain niche or vertical that we are normally targeting. And they performed so much better than the big ones. So I think testing is just super, super important in that case as well as in all kind of media.
Yeah, we're doing this at the moment with ad campaigns with where they're sort of latching onto talent and celebrities, I suppose. So we've got a big core panel of about 1,000 viewers where we put out the celebrities to them and say about fits with brands and what they think would be kind of cool, kind of right, kind of wrong. And so we're doing that right now with the project. So yeah, we're doing it as well.
Yeah. I will add also something very important is the strategy part that you have really to focus on before launching an influencer marketing campaign. When you are doing TV, it's pretty easy. You are making a brief in terms of reach, KPI, audience, targeting. It's pretty easy, and then you got a media planning, which is easy to sort and to figure out. With influencer marketing, you really have to focus on your strategy by identifying the right channel of influencer marketing. There is BuzzKit, there are also product recommendation, sponsor content, there are a wide range of strategy, but you really have to focus on your strategy before going further. And of course, lots of testing. And one also of the feedback I would provide, it's to choose the right organization to do it, because you can connect directly with influencer, but you also could connect through an agency, through several agency, through agent, and sometimes it's very complicated to handle this relationship with an influencer. So choose widely your strategy and choose widely how do you organize and you make your process to get into this strategy.
Which is really reflective. I mean, the idea, the ethos of testing, of experimentation, of what a lot Corey was talking about, and almost like you're figuring out not only what works, but let's figure out what doesn't work as fast as we possibly can, spending as little money as we can, and then scale from there. Now, did we have, let's see here, where are my mic folks? Excellent. I see a hand. Have at it.
Hi, my name is Carolyn. Thank you very much for the very interesting thoughts. I'd like to know more about transparency issues, especially regarding politics. You mentioned Brexit before. If you think about, let's say Twitter, they announced that they will implement some, I don't know, sort of purple badge when it comes to political campaigns. Did you try that as well? Did you try that with influencer marketing campaigns? Did you try to publicly announce, by the way, this is real marketing, this is not just someone, I don't know, a private opinion of something?
Real marketing, I like that. Yeah, sponsored post. And I got a follow-up for this too, but go for it.
So yeah, this is a big issue in Germany legally, because there's a lot of legal guidelines that are already there for TV, and the way the law works over here is they're automatically applied also to online, and sometimes that doesn't really work that well because it's not like product placements. A long time everybody here just they just hit everything with this is a product placement, even though it wasn't really, because nobody really knew what a product placement was. They just, you know, they're all young influencers. The first time they're getting money, so they're just saying, oh, this is now a product placement. I'm getting paid. But transparency is very important. And in my experience, at the very beginning, like a couple years ago, I've had companies come up to me and say, we want to do marketing things with you, but it should not look like that, and you know, because it's authentic if the audience thinks it's your personal opinion. And I've always said no to that, but I know people that have accepted that. But companies now are also on the lookout. You see this in the US, you see this in Germany. You know, they've been, you know, hit for some of the things they've done, and it's getting to a point, I think, where the audience is also accepting the fact that what we do as influencers is the same, in a way, than what they do. It's content that we're creating, and somebody has to pay for that content in some way, and it's totally okay. And when you're doing it transparently, in my experience, the audience is actually going to appreciate that. If you're saying, you know, this is an ad, and they've paid for this, and it's a cool company, I actually enjoy them myself, and this is the product they're selling, and now back to the content that's actually giving you some value, and it's not just an ad, then they're going to love you for that.
I mean, it's a major question for advertiser, and we've tried on our side both sponsor posts or strategy clearly identified as advertising, and also the opposite. And as a brand, I really want to make it the more authentic as possible, and it's, I mean, one of the key requirements for a campaign. And I think I won't do anymore a campaign with a hashtag ad or hashtag placement or something else. I really want an influencer to understand what we are doing, and that there is a real fit between me as Leetchi and also the influencer. And yeah, it's a major issue for the entire ecosystem.
Excellent. I see another waving hand here. Can I beat you to him? I was just going to hop the monitor. That's probably better.
Hi, my name's Stefan. Thank you for the discussion, but just asking myself whether with all the A influencers, they are just kind of testimonials from the former decades, but how do you deal with the mid and long tail influencers changing their brands they are promoting, like everybody else is changing t-shirts or trousers? So how do you deal with it from a point of sustainability for the brands and all that stuff?
Yeah, sustainability. Excellent, yeah. Healthy relationship, sustainability, long-term. Do those words even exist in influencer marketing?
So to be honest, I mean, like, it really depends. So if you're looking into an influencer that you think is a super fit and you maybe would kind of like to connect that influencer really closely to your brand, I think obviously that's super important, and then you should be in a discussion with that person that it actually works out for a longer time. But honestly, I mean, like, if it's just a post on Instagram and in general that person fits, that's fine for us. I mean, like, that can also happen to TV. So you book your advertising somewhere, and I don't know, then maybe there's news breaking, something happened in the world, and then somehow it gets connected to that. That's okay, that's just life. So I think it really depends if you're looking into something where you really want to have a strong relationship, and so the influencer somehow has a, like the image of that influencer gets really connected to your brand, or if it's just like a short-term, try that out, performance campaign kind of thing, in my opinion.
I mean, me personally, to me it's very important to my audience that I don't do that I don't change shirts every day. I mean, I do, but you know, advertising.
And we appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's very important for me as a brand, because I'm a brand myself as well. If I do that, people are not going to take me serious anymore after a couple of months, and then I lose my brand and I lose my audience, and they're not going to respect me anymore as a creator, because they think, you know, you're a sellout and you're only doing this financially, and we see that already. And I think a lot of people that are doing that, they're going to be able to do that, and they're going to make a lot of money for a short amount of time. And then that's going to stop. And I think the people that you as a brand want to work with are going to be people where you can look at their past and you see, all right, they've worked with, you know, 3 brands, 5 brands, maybe 10 brands over the last couple of years, and none of them were our competitor, and we can work with them and we can establish a relationship. And we can also try to make that clear to them and tell them, like, we want to work with you more than once. Because that doesn't happen a lot of times either. It's just people that, you get paid now, and then maybe a year later you ask again because, now you have a new budget and whatever. But I think if you make clear from the beginning that we want to establish a relationship, and this could be beneficial for both of us, because now I have a guaranteed income, because I can actually expect there to be another check from you in a couple of months, and my audience is also not going to jump me because, yesterday I advertised for Adidas, and next week I'm going to advertise for Nike, and so on, and they're going to think I'm a hypocrite. So I think it can be beneficial to establish those relationships, and you should just check the people that you're working with and see what kind of people they are and what they do.
Now, I think we may have time for one final question. I'm not getting any waves or anything thrown at me, so that's fantastic. I've got one loaded up that I'm super curious on. Down here? Excellent. Listen? All right.
Hi, I'm Jörn from TriFoods. Influencer marketing, seems to be a big hype now. You said like a lot of brands are going there now, more and more agencies, and we get requests of agencies contacting us, now focusing on influencer marketing. Do you see that there's a risk of kind of oversaturation? Is that something like a post-influencer marketing world? Or is it here to stay, or is it kind of hype that will go down? Where do you see that going?
I think if you look at the US, for example, in comparison to Germany, I think that the US has always been ahead of us here for years, and they're still going. So I'm confident that in Germany we're going to keep going for a while as well. And if you look at what influencer marketing is in its essence, I think it's something that's always been there and it's going to continue to be there. I don't think it's really that new. I think it's just changed shapes, but it's a combination of working with Roger Federer as a testimonial before he had an Instagram account, and of reaching people within content like you do with product placements in traditional TV, and reaching people where they actually just enjoy their content, where they spend their time, which is now on their phones and on social media. And you just changed, but it's still the same idea. So I think it's going to always be there. It's just going to, maybe in a couple of years we're going to be sitting here and talking about how we do VR marketing or 360-degree marketing, whatever, on our new crazy Google glasses or whatever. So there's going to be some element of people having an audience, reaching that audience in the best way possible, like there's always been, and it's just gonna stay. So I think that's gonna stay there. When you're talking about agencies and stuff, I think there is definitely a gold rush right now in this market, and a lot of players are not gonna be there in a couple of years, or probably even a couple of months. There's so many platforms, so many agencies, so many networks, so many managements. There's gonna be a consolidation of that market, definitely, and it's already happening, at least in Germany it is. So I think the influencers are here to stay. The companies that are advertising you, the influencers, not so much.
Yeah, no, digital and TV, the reason those two are doing really well at the moment is because they work so well together. I think it's a natural journey for influencer marketing, I hope. So it's hopefully the next journey is scaling up. It's finding the right brands with the right personalities, but never, which we always try not to do, is underestimate the intelligence of your audience. They know. And if you really want to activate it and amplify it, then I would say this, we'd move on to the next stage, yeah.
And that's probably a fantastic point to end on, underestimating the intelligence of your audience. People like to be entertained, people like to learn, people like to be distracted, but in the end, people connect with people. And that's that basis, that bedrock upon which this is built, and you can do that well or you can do that shady. So I love the emphasis on transparency too. Thank you so much for the questions, and to our lovely panelists, give them a round of applause, please.